Hey yo, welcome to the Godcast.
I hope y'all are buckled up, because things are about to get weird.
I don't understand why you chose me.
You want to change the world, son. So do I.
Where are we at in terms of history on the timeline? Where are we exactly? I'm just trying to uncover the truth and bring forth what I can see as the truth. The Bible seemed to be predicting more things than any other conspiracy theory type information, Look, one thing's for certain, that there is so much power in the name of Jesus Christ. That I know for sure.
Welcome to Godcast.
Welcome to Godcast.
The Goodness Over Darkness.
The Goodness Over Darkness podcast.
Here is your host.
Here's your host, Emmanuel Kingman.
Emmanuel Kingman.
Welcome to the light.
Welcome to the light.
Welcome to the light.
It's showtime. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Godcast, the Goodness Over Darkness podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Kingman, and with me is the love of my life, Mimi.
Hello.
Hello, my love. How are you today?
Knocking out these intros. Just knocking out these intros.
So
It's
you,
been a good morning, but I do need some more coffee
so
soon.
you weren't here for this episode as well. You were
I know.
working, and it was another tight squeeze for me. As soon as I got in from work, I was in my work outfit still when I'm on video, so you guys get to see that.
Yep, fall is very busy for Georgia Girl Art paint parties.
I see. Apparently it's busy for me as well. It's been super heavy lately, and I think that's probably metaphorical for what's going on in the world. But on today's episode, we had on special guest Jim Wilhelmson. I had on special guest Jim Wilhelmson, and Jim is a returning guest. He was on for the round table, and the Fallen Angels round table, that is, with the Nephilim, secret societies, and alien abductions. And man, this episode, Jim really, he was great on the round table as well, but he really brought it this time. We got into a lot of different things, and I had him break down the different races of aliens and if they're physical beings. Well, not all the races, but the ones that are, working on the outside, or just hiding in plain sight, essentially. And it was a really good time. I mean, you guys gotta listen to this. The only thing is that he's a Trump supporter, which I'm not against being Trump supporters. I just don't believe that any politicians are part of it. But I've been known to be wrong about things before, so no biggie. You look perplexed over there. Are you all right?
I was looking at the wrong round table information.
Oh yeah, not that round table. Yeah, no.
I need to see a face, and I'm not connecting the face with the name. And because I wasn't here for the interview, now I'm really not connecting the name to the face, so I'm thrown off.
Oh, okay. Well, so Jim's a pastor. He started out down a dark path and then was saved by Christ.
Okay, now I'm connecting.
Okay. And he is a pastor of a Christian motorcycle club. I didn't ask about if he's still currently doing that motorcycle club, but that's where he went to for a long time.
I think I'm remembering it. This is the man that had a wealth of knowledge and not took over the round table.
Well,
but had a lot of good information.
Yeah, about the alien
in
abductions.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So him and Gary Wayne were both
Gary
killing
Wayne,
it on
yes.
that. Yeah. And we'll have Gary Wayne on in a few weeks. So that'll be really fun as well. But and I'm actually having everybody else from the round table on as individuals. I'm going to have on Josh Monday later today, and then Jason Monday tomorrow. And I already had Ark on, and I'm going to have Gary Wayne in a few weeks. So I wanted to get Jim in here as well. So that I want to break down everyone in their individual stuff. It's fun.
I guess I didn't write any notes on that round table.
No, you weren't here for it. You were working for that as well.
There we go. Now I know why I'm so lost. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that I finished at like 1 in the morning,
I'm living at
2 in
work.
the morning, and you came home from work and then went right to bed.
I'm living in paint parties right now. Okay.
Yeah. But I guess we need it. So, or the
Yeah.
world needs it anyway, or it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, it's a nice energy transfer. I like it. Much,
Yeah.
much better than the other
Right.
job I had.
Right. The only thing with this one is it's kind of limitless. There's no real boundaries for it, so then it's all times of the day, and sometimes it gets
That's
to you.
okay.
Yeah, but it can be an all-day thing rather than where work was solidified in a certain time frame for you before. Now it can be while you're sleeping.
Yeah. As soon as I wake up, I have a cut
right.
list of a million things.
And then you're getting stuff all
orders, and-
throughout the day. So
It's all right
it's
though.
just different
It's
in
a
that
different
sense.
transfer, and it has a much higher frequency than
Yeah.
than
Well, you were
working for
being
somebody else.
Yeah,
like,
you were
know?
being bound before.
Yeah, and I can draw lines and say, hey, I'm not going to work today. Like I said last night, that today wasn't going to be a work day. It's going to be a real day off. And so far, I haven't walked in the garage at all.
It's
I
noon.
haven't touched anything
It's noon,
yet.
folks.
Well, hey, I have one thing to cut at this moment, which is, I'd rather wait till I had a pile and then go do it all at once.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. That's
A
Mimi's
day in the life. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, with Jim, we
Sorry, Jim.
Jim.
Hijack.
Okay, I think Jim would forgive you. He's a pretty forgiving man. He's well versed in the Bible, so I really got to ask him some stuff about that and conspiracies in the Bible so I asked him about the different Christed beings that maybe existed, and Mithra, Dionysius, Osiris, and he was saying that they were fallen angels pretending to be gods. And I think maybe some of them could have been Nephilim, Quetzalcoatl being the feathered serpent, being a man, half dragon. That would be, to me, that's the Antichrist, I guess. But that would be exactly that,
What do you think
a
about
Nephilim.
getting the handful of pastors that we know together to talk? Do you think
I was thinking about.
Do you think that maybe some
That might
have
be a
more
round table.
information that they're not, they don't
That might
really
be-
let people know about?
that might be a round
'cause they
table in
don't
the
wanna be
future.
labeled as conspiracy-ish or, out there-ish.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Easter is a fun time, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm trying
Okay.
to stick with some themes here.
Okay,
Get me.
okay.
All right, get on the train, my love.
Hey, I'm just here for the ride.
That's
I'll
right.
just sit by and let you do your thing.
What? Yeah, well, I sit by and let God do his thing. I'm not in control of this. I'm not bringing the ship home. It's happening through me from God. That's just what it is. And everybody that I'm doing intros for today, I'm wearing my Jesus Save shirt. I got on my WWJD bracelet, and I got my Christ Has Risen hat, and I'm doing all that. And actually, I have my Mario
player shorts on.
Yeah, so
Cover all bases.
Yeah,
Video game.
yeah.
Bible. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and we're all my guests have been saved by Jesus as well as myself. And
What happens on the days that you wear like your Pickle Rick shirt?
I guess we've been pickled into a different dimension. I'll have to pay more attention to that. Maybe I can go
That's
back
that
and check my videos.
Childlike spirit day.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I have on my Rick and Morty socks. How about that?
That's what made me think. I was thinking socks, but then I remember they weren't socks. It was a shirt.
No, I have 2 pairs of socks and a shirt. No. I used to be real big into psychedelics, and Rick and Morty were part of that, and Travis Scott. But that like propelled me into what I know now. So it's not that stuff's evil or anything on the face of it. It's just You know, it's one of those things. Everyone gets to make their own decisions and bring their own things into their own lives, and that's all. I mean, there's no casting judgment. Nobody here is perfect. We're all, and maybe we all are perfect in our own way, the way that we are. Maybe that too. Or maybe there's somewhere in the middle. But we shouldn't judge people for small differences, you know, little dislikes and likes. That's all. So, anyway, what are you writing down over there?
Just stuff. What I want to talk about when we do our next episode, just,
Okay.
lighten it up, liven it up. I got some stuff I want to talk about, but I don't want to do it on somebody's intro.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that'll do it then. No,
It's been a good morning, so we really are knocking out some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys will really have to get in. So this episode, I also brought forth to Jim the possibility that our cell phones, our TVs, and our computers are all another dimension, and we're peering
Portals,
into it.
yeah.
Yeah, they're interdimensional portal devices. That's what a cell phone is.
It really is.
It really is. I mean,
Pulls you into another world, literally.
yeah,
Takes you out of reality.
and things come out of it as well, and it affects how we act. And if we didn't have it here, then it wouldn't be here.
Quote unquote reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have to unplug from the matrix. You know, literally we have to, the energy that is the entirety of the earth, as I described in the episode Whitney Struck,
Sure.
is we're plugged into it, and we're getting smaller bursts of electricity. And actually, so that's what 5G is, and Jim talks about that a little bit, that he thinks 5G, and it's, if we are electrical beings in an electrical universe, and 5G is some kind of an electrical burst on us, then it could be used for possession. And it could be, that's why.
It could be used for so many things. I mean, influencers don't even get me
But
started.
maybe that's why people were dropping dead, is because of the electrical outbursts. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, who knows? So anyway, make sure you check out all Jim's stuff, his podcast. He invited me on to be on his podcast during the episode, actually. So
Awesome.
you'll have to check me out on there as well. So his podcast is Beyond Science Fiction. He has a book titled Beyond Science Fiction. His website is echoesofenoch.com, and make sure you go to .com, because .org is some other thing he said. I forget exactly what he was saying, but
Now I want to
some
check
weird
out both.
website.
Now I want to check out both.
Well, enter at your own risk. That's all I'll say. So anyway, check all Jim's stuff out. Check out my website, emmanuelkingman.com. Hit me up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can donate at my website if you are so inclined to. You can, look up all my energy work, and you check out some of the reviews. I've had some amazing reviews. And if you're in need of assistance, I'm not here to steal your money. I'm looking to help you get a lot for the money that you do pay. So, most people, it would be several $100s of where I'm charging 88. It's a very fair pricing, I'd say. And I don't care for the money. It would be nice to not have to go to work and to be able to have that as my only job, but that's not what I do it for. I do it to help people. And if I can do that more and more, then that only benefits the world. So that's what I do it for. It's not about the money with me. I don't put advertisements on the show, and I'm not going to. I'm not interested in putting the information behind a paywall. I am not trying to withhold anything. I am getting all the secrets out that I can from all the psychic world that people make you pay thousands of dollars for to become. I am offering all of that for free. And I know just as much as all they do. And I want you to have it because you should have it. I have it. I found it out. And you guys can have it. And you don't need to pay for it. But if you would like some assistance, one-on-one work, then that's
Yeah, there
an
is some
energy
work that you need
transference.
to do.
That's
Yeah.
a transference of energy. That's all. And so I feel comfortable with taking money for that. But for my content, and I'm not judging anyone that doesn't, that charges for whatever they want. I'm just saying for me, I just want to put all the information out for free completely, as many places as can be, and do as much uh, kindness as I can for the world so that the world can be made into a better place, a much more loving, caring, helpful place. That's all I seek. So make sure you stay tuned at the end of the episode for a preview of the next episode. And without further ado, here is Jim Williamson. Hello, everybody. On today's episode, I have on a guest whose words really helped to awaken me. He went from a motorcycle club to becoming a pastor, and along the way, he has learned a lot about the woo part of reality. He specializes in helping free people from alien abductions by using the name of Jesus Christ. Everybody, welcome Jim Williamson back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming back. You were on the round table, and it was so awesome. And now I get to have you on the show by yourself, and I'm so greatly appreciative of it because when you opened the doorway to the alien abduction phenomena in the round table, I hadn't planned on talking about that, but then it just really brought it all together in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, well, it's all these different elements, whether it be anything from Bigfoot, UFOs, Nazi technology, Agenda 21, all of these things are all part of one story. So they're all interconnected. And it's paradise lost and found. And the good news is that we win and the other guy loses. So, yeah, I cheated. I looked at the back of the Bible and it clearly says that we win and they lose. So my main emphasis is the fact that God has a plan for us individually and collectively as a planet. And he has control. And we learn his plan and know his will. We're going to be invulnerable. We're going to be around until God's done using us. And, that I think can give every individual confidence. And that's my main thrust. But I'm not afraid to venture out into new areas and think, outside of the box, as long as I'm grounded, for me, as a pastor, believer in Christ and the Bible, as long as I see it clearly in the Bible and can have it confirmed by the Word and by His Spirit.
Well, that's the beautiful part because you came on last time and you were like, well, I have very big ideas and it's very different than what people typically have. And I'm like, yes, that is me. That is, I am grounded in Christ, but I am also examining all of this odd stuff. And when things align, I'm like, okay. And then when things don't align, I just let it go. And it's no big deal. I research stuff all the time and I make up, I come to conclusions and then I find out more information and then I'm like, oh, well, that other thing wasn't real. And I let go of it. No big deal. And what I have really understood lately is that the more that the current events that happen in our life occur, the closer it feels that we're getting to some kind of event. I don't want to say one particular event, but there's something that I feels like it's a crescendo, it's building.
Yeah.
And conspiracy theorists, there's a lot of different ideas out there, but when you take someone like yourself, for example, or Josh and Jason Monday, who are doing the same thing, is looking at the Bible, and Gary Wayne as well, looking at the Bible and filtering the conspiracies through the Bible, you start to see that there is a much more clear picture from people who are in the Christian world or the Bible world, I'll say, not even Christian, but studying the Bible and also studying conspiracies. So I really think that this is the closest thing to the truth that there is. And it's really brought me closer to Christ, and it's brought me more clarity of the Bible being, at one time I thought one thing of it, and I'm still not completely sold on it because it has been changed and everything, but there is a lot of good information in there. And there's a lot of literal information that's directing us in where we are and where we're headed.
Yep, exactly. And for me, my anchor is the Word of God. And I It's kind of an embarrassment in a sense. I know and understand ancient Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic better than I do English. I'm a very poor speller. If it wasn't for spell check, people would be scratching their head going, what is this dude doing, man? Can't even spell English.
So you know ancient Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic?
Yeah, basically I know not the language. I can't speak it fluently or anything like that, but I know the syntax for the language. I know all the reference material to go to get all that I need to go back to the original language on a PhD level. So all it takes is relentless study, discipline, a desire to really know, what the scriptures are saying. And that would be on the intellectual basis. On the spiritual basis, it's having a very solid personal relationship with Jesus, knowing his mind through the Holy Spirit to be led and guided and directed during your time of study, so that you have the best of both. And you have the anointing from God, and you also have the intellect from understanding the word by the word itself, and then which would be always referred to as the logos, which is the word of God, but also the rhema, which is the divine inspired word of God by the Holy Spirit. When you have a combination of both, and you can put your intellect at the feet of Jesus, that's how you get the anointing. That's how you get the other half led by the Spirit. So in combination like that, you can be pretty well determined on what he does say and what he may not be saying. I mean, I find some things intellectually, I can find scripture, doctrine, theology, whatever you would want to call it. I can prove both ways. And I love that, because it's God's way of saying, you know what? You're not going to know unless I tell you by my Spirit. And so there's safety there, because sometimes if our reliance is on knowing everything in detail ahead of time, then we're going to be more dependent on the events and not the creator of the events. God wants us to be totally dependent upon him, step by step, every step of the way. Him leading us, not being comfortable in our own preconceived ideas, which really they are. I mean, and it's nothing wrong to have an opinion, nothing wrong to have an imagination or consider different things. But what is wrong is that the Bible warns that our heart, or in other words, our mind, is deceitfully wicked above all things. We're going to deceive ourselves. And if we can't, the enemy's going to deceive ourselves. If he can't oppose something, he's going to slide right next to it and provide an alternative that looks real, feels real, hears real, but it doesn't produce the fruitful results that God's direction does. So he's a good imitator. So, and he deceives any of us. I've been serving the Lord for 46 years, but I better never ever get to a point where I think I've got it all figured out.
Exactly.
I mean, God can give you a vision, a dream, a personal hearing of him directly. And what comes in is pure, but I'm not pure. And I have my ups and downs, and I have my flesh to deal with and Satan to deal with. And so through all of that, and maybe preconceived ideas that I've been taught, that I'm afraid to deviate from if I hear something that seems like it's way outside of that box. So we, are told, even taught in, whether it be a theological seminary or it be in our church, many times we're taught certain things are absolutes and they aren't.
Right.
And so we're afraid to deviate from that. So I have no fear. God is not going to lead me astray. He's not going to leave me an orphan and not tell me what I need to know when I need to know it. But he'll always give us enough to have a peace that passes all understanding. He'll give us enough to be patient and wait, if that's what we have to do. And, that seems to be the human frailty, the biggest thing at all. Most people are not patient to wait. And now with the younger generations, with Siri and Alexia and everything, they got immediate responses on anything all the time. And they're used to that. Well, God doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's always stimulating the brain. It's always, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And when they don't have that, then we call it ADD or ADHD, because they're not being stimulated like they're used to.
Right. And it's all conditioning, I think, for the anti-Christian generation to be totally oblivious to having trust and faith to wait upon the Lord. And then you will renew your strength. That's what the Word of God says. So
yeah, I agree. So you said a couple things in there that I wanted to circle back to. So Did you learn ancient Hebrew and ancient Greek by reading the Bible, or did you learn that in order to read the Bible in its original context? Because for anyone listening, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, and the New Testament was originally written in ancient Greek. So that's why I'm talking about the Bible, just in case anyone is unfamiliar with that.
Yeah, and the ancient Greek was a combination of Aramaic and Greek kind of merged together because of captivity and where they, where the writers were writing in the language, in their captivity.
Okay.
So in each languages, so a modern Greek may not understand ancient Greek any more than we would understand ancient Gaelic or
Old English.
English. It's just, it's hard to see. No, some of the problem is that Hebrew and Greek, especially Hebrew, is the most intelligent, most amazing language that exists on the earth. And they'll have maybe 20 different variations for one word. English is about the dumbest language on the planet. As a matter of fact, I think it is the dumbest in the planet. So we have one word and it means everything rolled up in one.
Mm-hmm.
And so to try to define the word in Hebrew that maybe will take 20 words to accurately define it, we can't do that. So we just throw in the one word. And that's where people can get lost. That's where you have to go back to the original. Now, back in the days before computers, before even myself, instant answers, I had to look everything up in a Hebrew Greek or a Hebrew Greek lexicon. In other words, word by word, I look everything up. By doing that every day, all the time, when I was studying, I got very familiar with the alphabets, that either Hebrew or Greek had. And I could usually start reading the words verbatim, just looking at it. You know what? If you don't use it, you lose it. When computer programs with the Bible study programs came on, man, I just click, 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 and here I am right there instantly. So I've lost a lot of that capability because now I'm dependent on the Bible programs. Now, fortunately, and this is what the Lord has done continually in my 46 years. I seem to end up meeting the right people and then getting favor or having a good friendship with some of the people that who would ever think a biker welder from Detroit would happen to know one of the top experts in ancient Hebrew. I mean, I'm talking one of the 5 most renowned people in their accuracy of ancient languages, and that's Dr. Mike Kaiser. He is a personal friend of mine, and I just think back sometimes, I go, how in the heck did that happen? That these two people could be connected and have this kind of relationship. So I go back to him a lot of times and refer, is my ancient Hebrew correct? Can this fit? Does it work? And a lot of times he'll say, well, yeah, Jim, it does, but, and then he'll tell me that he doesn't necessarily agree with the conclusions, but the language is good. And I say, okay, Mike, thank you. Good enough. That's all I needed to know.
So that's pretty amazing. And when you said about the logos, I think that it's very important that we understand that Jesus is the logos. And if we want to turn it into the English version, there we have all the symbolism, the famous quote, symbolism will be their downfall. Well, what is a symbol? But it's a logo. So when you have all these other logos of the other side, there's one logo for us, and that is Jesus Christ. And so when the Bible specifically is saying the logos was with God, the word was the logos, and the logos was with God, before any of this occurred that we are in today, and before Jesus was ever born, there was a plan that was made that would be Jesus would be the logo that defeats all the other logos. And when you break it down into terms like that, it makes complete sense.
Well, when an organization called Zeitgeist came together and they were trying to debunk some of the major theological precepts that Christianity was based on, they tried to say, well, look, the Sumerians had this whole scenario of a savior and a death and a resurrection. You guys just copied because they were centuries ahead of time. So that means you're just using leftovers. This is just an old program that your writers copycatted from. No, because my Bible says in Revelation that before the foundation of the world, the Word existed.
So where do you think that Sumerian thing comes from? Does it come from fallen angels who knew of a coming Messiah and they told the Sumerians this?
They're not bound by time like we are. They can travel, to and fro and everywhere, and we're thinking linear, and we got to realize we got an enemy outside of time. Okay. They can travel dimension, they can travel time.
Right. That makes total sense. But I'm sorry, you were saying?
Well, it's even warned in the 5 eye wills of Satan in 14th chapter. He says, I will be like the Most High. I can't quote him right now. My mind is racing so much. But the 5 eye wills, when you break it down into the original Hebrew, tells you of a 5-point plan. And one of them is to copy to overlay. Is when it says, I will be like the Most High, it literally means to copy to overlay. So that means by going before or after, he's going to overlay his own plan that seems to be the same as God's plan, but it's the same but opposite because he has his own plan. Right. So what we need to see and perceive is that there's times when he can't directly conflict God in his word. So what he'll do is provide an alternative, something that looks like the same. That's to copy to overlay. He'll go ahead of time, during the time, or past the time, and lay out all of these plans.
Nope, I'm losing you.
All these things that look like I said, we have it not bound by any linear thought. Anything that's going on in heaven, we got to realize that whatever we're looking at in heaven already been done. It's outside of time. Time is completed there. It's totally outside of our whole perception. So, the word Shemayan is the word for heaven, and it's the same word in the Hebrew for all three, but the context determines what it is. One is the atmosphere around the earth. The other is the space, stars, planets, and the universe that we call the second heaven, the physical universe. And then the third is a place outside of either two. It's a separate dimension, and it's an alternate dimension of where God and his kingdom the earth had never fallen. It had stayed true to the word of God. And so this is played out. We call it heaven, but it's actually a parallel universe, a place of perfection. And we live in the fallen one. And of course, then Jesus was the bridge that connected us back to where we belong. We can't earn it. We can't learn it. We can't do anything other than to accept the free gift that Jesus is that bridge. And when we come to know that we need him and we accept him on his terms of full surrender, then we have access to that bridge to get back to where we belong.
So when we have like Mithra, Dionysius, Osiris, all these different characters that came before Jesus with similar characteristics of when they were born, who they were born to, some were born of a virgin, some they were claimed to be December 25th, but we know Jesus's birthday wasn't December 25th. It's just attributed to that day. So there's all these different things. Nimrod even has some characteristics. So are these characters set up by Satan in order to deceive us, or were these characters some kind of Christed individuals that maybe did have some kind of higher understanding, but they weren't the Messiah?
They definitely weren't the Messiah. They were fallen angels pretending to be gods. Now, the new religion, the new spin on is that, well, they weren't really gods, but they were aliens who are who are our creators, and they're trying to provide us with direction and steering. And so this is the means they did it. They came down pretending to be gods that would intervene with mankind and steer them towards a sense of global unity, morality by their standards. Of course, they don't seem to have,
which is no morality.
Well, it's they don't have a problem with the Machiavellian outlook and justifies the mean. Do whatever you have to bring out the good. You can use evil to be good. That's just outrageously contrary to anything in the Word of God. Mm-hmm. But they came with bearing gifts, technology, ways of doing things that produced actual tangible enhancements of life. I mean, they got them dazzled by their powers. And it's funny that there's a basic like council of 9. There's 9 key figures in all of the myths and beliefs, whether they be religious or whether they be mythological creations, especially in the Egyptian I think in the Egyptian culture, it's really peaks out to a real interconnection of human and non-humans that are the humans being the benefactors and sometimes the victims of these 9 ruling major gods, and then small gods underneath them. And
do you know the names of these 9?
Well, they have different names in all the different
cultures.
Different cultures. Like Anubis, Anu in the Sumerian, Anubis in the Egyptian, Hermes in the Greek, and Mercury in the Roman. So they all vary, but with their functions is how you can identify who they are and what they are. And these same 9 seem to be the kingpins in every situation. They're played out in, gosh, every kind of sci-fi movie that you could ever think of. They always have Deep Space Nine, and there's not any coincidence there. It's all by design, getting everybody used to certain terms, certain concepts, and there's a consistency with all of these. And the thing is that I find interesting in every sci-fi movie program that ever existed, except for one, all of these pretty much promote and proclaim the ancient aliens belief, or the gods, that came down. Basically, they created us, and they're coming back now to further us into an intergalactic community. Now that we have capabilities and understanding technology as far as traveling, the possibilities of traveling time and space, they realize that once we are able to reach out to a greater community, now they can come down and share everything with us that they have. Hawkins, at the end of his life, realized maybe SETI and all of us should not be reaching out, trying to touch aliens, because everything in our history, or any history that we know of, they never share anything. They use it to enslave us. They'll attract us to them, but then eventually it's going to be a total enslavement.
Right.
That was pretty good, Stephen Hawkins. I'm glad you said that. Elon Musk is coming to the same conclusions, only in a more of a flaunting way. He says, hey, quantum physics has shown we're not even living in the real world. So guess what? Why don't I give you a virtual world that you can live in, where you can be, it's not real anyway. So let's take it where there's no accountability. There's no anything. You can always win. You can always have anything and everything you want. Just put on these VR glasses and tune in and trip out.
So what I wanted to ask right there is that, so in the Bible, it says at certain points in the Genesis that God walked with Adam and Eve and his physical creation. Now, do you think that we were created by the whole creator, or were we created by these fallen angels, or what some people term as aliens? And I'll just give my view on it briefly. Is I think that there's an ultimate creator that created everyone and everything to do certain things at certain times. And if they did create us, the Anunnaki story, if they did create us, and they were the ones that were walking, or one of them at least was walking with Adam and Eve in the garden, that kind of makes sense to me. But it was only because God created them to create us, so that we could show them that they have a creator, because they got so arrogant that they thought that they are creators and that they are gods, and they forgot about God. So God created them to create us so that we would be more powerful than them, and we would bring them back to God by being more powerful than, the creation overtaking the creator in this sense. So I'm not sold on that idea or anything, but it's just an interesting possibility. So what's your take on the creation story? Were we created by the ultimate creator, or did one of his creations create us?
Well, going by what the Word of God says, I have to conclude. I get the concept of created by intention or created by extension. I get that concept, because that's exactly what Satan has tried to do or imitate in God's creation. When the Lord says, I am the Lord your God, there beside me is no other, I think that's a pretty definite statement right there. There is no other. He is the ultimate creator. He's created all things. Nothing was created that was not created by him, which is also is quoted in the New Testament in Colossians, quoting Psalms in the Old Testament. So it's that concept is there both in the New and the Old Testament. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad, hear, O Israel, the Lord God, the Lord is one. But the word Echad means composite one, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And a lot of times in Jewish idiom, they use the plural to emphasize the importance of what is being said there. So this is a very important concept. God is one, but he's a combination of one. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We're made in his likeness. We have a soul, a spirit, and a body. So, you know, we are a reflection of his creation. So that alone, but there's many other scriptures to support the concept that only God is to be worshiped, only God is to be followed, only God is to be believed. When somebody or someone comes and says that they're, you know, an extension of God's creation and that, you know, we created you, they're lying, because that's not consistent with what, you know, the Word of God does clearly and simply say. I find it interesting that with quantum physics, the idea was the conclusions. The idea was that we're not living in a real world. It's like a computer program.
So a holographic universe.
Yeah. Then that means then who's running the program? Well, the little god of this world is running this present fallen system. God clearly defined that when he was out fasting and praying 40 days before he started his ministry, 40 days and nights. Satan came and says, if you'll bow down to me and worship me, I'll give you these kingdoms. Well, he must have had some kind of kingdoms that he's offering God, but he's a blind fool, because they were kingdoms that he was on loan with in his fallen place. So he's saying, you know, stay here in this fallen place, worship me, and I'll give you everything that you gave me. The problem is what he gave him was an imitation. It's an imagination extension of his own head. And so he is the little g god of this world. So he's actually insane doing that, asking the creator to, you know, come down. It's like he made everything perfect in his time. Why is he going to settle for a second-rate thing? So what did Jesus say? He quoted him. He says, the Lord your God, you should worship the Lord your God and none other. Get behind me, Satan. So he made it quite clear what his opinion of that kind of concept was. The joke is that, you know, he took a handful of dirt. God created the heavens and the earth, and the seventh day he rested and said, this is good. Satan looks at that and go, well, I can do that. So he grabs the dirt, and God looks at him and says, hey, that's my dirt. Get your own. The fact is he doesn't have his own dirt. So you know what he has to do? He has to take that dirt and then modify, twist it, distort it. That's how come we got transhumanism and all this other kind of crazy stuff going on now. Just as in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. We're just coming full circle to what the problem was just before the flood and why there was a global flood. Because the human race was being contaminated by these non-human entities pretending to be gods. And what's happening now with the ancient aliens religion, that's just what they're cramming down our throats. Now in Revelation's 9th chapter, it says that an angel comes with a key to the bottomless pit, and he opens up the pit. And when he opens it up, this smoke comes out. Well, we're thinking, you know, hell, pit, you know, fire and smoke, smoke's going to come out. You look in the Greek, that word for fire means it means obscurity. And what it means is the obscurity of truth. It's a false religious belief system that's coming out first. And the angel that has the key doesn't say whether it's a good angel or bad angel, just an angel has a key and opens up the bottomless pit. Well, in context, it seems to be that this is probably a fallen angel that opens up the pit deliberately to release what's inside. This is where the hollow earth concept comes in, which is clearly described in the Bible as being a reality. And so in this, in Revelation 9, we see this locust invasion coming out. And all of this is telling us of what exactly is happening today. We can, genetically modify and create locusts, but it has nothing to do with what we're seeing here. When you allow the Bible to interpret itself by itself, there's a 9-point, what is it? Wait a minute. On the locust, I think. I'm having a senior moment here, so apologize for that.
No worries.
Five or 8 point, I can't remember, but at each point of description, of those locusts has a further description elsewhere in the scriptures to tell you what these things are. The long hair of a woman they're beautiful. It's a woman's hair is her vanity, so it's beautiful. They have faces like men. Okay, so they look human, but they're not human. They, let's see, what was the other? The sounds of their chariots, as the sounds of many chariots into battle. That was a pivot point for me when I looked that one up in Greek. And I was getting ready to go down to Plano, Texas at the Prophecy Club to give a speech on that. And so it was crunch time. I waited the last minute and I'm hurrying up and getting everything. And the Lord kept telling me, look this up in the Greek, look this up in the Greek. I want you to look up sounds. Lord, but I got to get this done. It's like, he kept telling me, no, you have to look this up. So I looked it up and it was one of those, oh my gosh, it was an epiphany moment. Sounds, I'm thinking something like, okay, that sounded like, had nothing to do with hearing. Sounds meant phone in the Greek. It's where we get phone, telephone. Literally, when I looked up Vine's notes on Strong's numbers, they go into the full etymology of that word, how it's used, everywhere else in the world and how it's used everywhere else in the Bible. It literally means that something is being dialed in. Length, height, width, and time. The pit is being opened up because it's opening up another dimension, a multiverse dimension.
That's very interesting. I've had the thought the last few days, say I was watching some stuff about the Nephilim being clowns, and that's why humans are inherently afraid of clowns. They have the huge shoes for the big feet. They have the stilts to make them giant. They have the red hair. They have the pale face. They're tricksters. They're always, pushing you to do things. The jesters are what people see when they smoke DMT. And I've had this vision of that the Nephilim are clowns, that their spirits are roaming the earth as demons now, and they're messing around with everything and everybody. And I had the thought that when we look into our black mirror, our phone, our TV, our computer, that we're actually looking at another dimension. When we have a static on our TV screen and it's a checkerboard, essentially, it's a very tiny checkerboard that's repeating itself over and over, the static that we see and the white noise. I think that it is actually another dimension. And that maybe the dimension you're talking about being opened up, it may be that dimension. We may be peering into hell, quite literally, when we are looking through our phones. And that's why we see so much deception, because it is actually another reality. Because the reality that my TV may tell me is happening and the reality that I face when I go out in the world are two different things. People are just living their lives when I walk about, and they're doing their normal thing. But my phone, my TV, my computer are all telling me, people are racist, people are violent, people are afraid of the virus, people are spreading a virus. But I just see normal people doing normal things. So what's your thoughts? Is this another dimension? Is this cell phone here? Is that looking into another dimension?
Dude, you're blowing my mind, man. That is so. Now I got to have you on my podcast.
I'll definitely be on. That's an honor.
As soon as possible, I want you on there. That is so thought provoking. I never looked at it that way, but it makes all the sense in the world to me. It really does. Man, that is so heavy. I got to have you on. That is really
we'll
cool.
Schedule it as soon as we finish. I mean, that'll be great. Yes, because I've smoked DMT. The way that I've come to learn Jesus is basically, I tried debunking Jesus. I looked everywhere else. I became psychic. I did psychedelics. I looked at conspiracy theories. I looked at spiritual stuff. I studied everything to try to debunk Jesus. So when I smoke DMT, it's a psychedelic experience. And I'm not going to go into great depth, but when I'm watching the video, what really did it for me is I'm watching this video this guy cut together, a lot of different things, and it makes a lot of sense. And there's this thing called liquid crystallization, where people are just sitting there having a conversation, being interviewed, celebrities being interviewed, and then all of a sudden on their face ends up being these black and white lines that are static, that are kind of like Beetlejuice, which is kind of like a clown, which, you know, the way that he acts is very Nephilim-esque. And when I'm seeing these squiggles take over these people, I'm like, that's the demonic spirit. That's the Nephilim. That's representative of it. And I'm like, I remember seeing those squiggles when I smoked DMT, but it's not something I held on to. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, yes, that is that. And the way that it happens in these videos, this liquid crystallization, is that it only attaches itself to the person. Like, there's all this other stuff happening. So if it was a video effect, you know, if it's right here, it would be affecting, you know, my chair, my shirt, but it's only the skin of the person. Is that possession, maybe?
Sounds like 5G.
Okay, well, there you go. Is 5G possession? Is that demonic possession?
There is people that are coming to the conclusion that there's a direct connection to that. Yeah, definitely. Now, it sounds like you watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space Part 1 and Part 2.
I haven't heard that. Is that a real movie?
Serious? Oh, you gotta go. Do you have any of the streaming?
Yeah, I got something. Yeah.
Go on all of them and find out. I think you'll probably find it probably in Netflix, but it's Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It just gives you almost every detail that you have already talked about. That's why I thought you must have seen the movie.
Oh, yeah, from hyperspace. You know, that's what DMT is. It sends you to hyperspace. So yeah, that makes total sense.
It's it's pretty wild. But yeah, the you know, when you're mentioning the fallen angels and the ones that died in the flood are now disembodied spirits we call demons. They're still existing fallen angels who are fully physical. They're not will-o'-the-wisps little spirits or anything. They're fully physical, and they are fallen angels. They have all the powers that the God's angels do. The same different orders. There's 4 main types. I find it interesting that in the Bible, it mentions 4 main types of non-human entities that are seen worshiping and praising God. And then we're told that there's 4 main types of demonic entities that we're to be aware of. And within the UFO community, there's 4 main types of aliens. And of course, they've got hundreds of variations on different things. I think they're all just, you know, kind of like chameleons. They can appear and be whatever you want them to be out of fear or out of desire. So a certain amount of that, but they do have the actual fallen angels are physical entities, and they have a physical body, and there seems to be 4 main types, and that would be in order of influence. The bottom of the barrel would be the grays, the gray aliens, kind of dolphin-like, kind of a little reptilian, but more like a dolphin. They have webbed fingers and feet. There talks in warnings in the Bible about life on earth and in the sea, and these may be those.
And are these physical creatures?
Yeah, physical creatures, definitely. Okay. The grays are. Now they're the lowest on the totem pole. They seem to be technicians. At one time they said they had 2 brains, and so that then in their head, and that's why they're kind of bulbous head. And now they're saying, oh no, they're just animatons. They're not even, you know, real. And I think they're chasing after Christians, myself being one of the first of maybe a dozen that started proclaiming what the Bible had to say, filling in some gaps. The first Ancient of Days conference in Roswell, New Mexico was 2003 or 4. I'm not really, I think, yeah, 2004 when all of us got together for a symposium, and we met with secular UFO researchers, and Guy Malone was the guy that originally put this all together. Well, it was ingenious to do that, but we provided something that we thought they would be excited about because we could fill in some of the gaps, the knowledge gaps. We weren't opposing, and we were agreeing that, wow, you know what, some of your stuff is actually found in the Bible, and here it is. Because it was the J word, Jesus, that we were mainly talking about, they took a defensive against it and then tried to change some of the things that you know, about these different aliens to discredit the Christian view of it. So that's when all of a sudden these super intelligent beings that could come in and creep into the windows at night and abduct you and make you think and feel different things. All of a sudden now they're just little dummy robots that are being led by others. And it's not consistent with what the Bible says. So all of a sudden they got dumbed down and they're just, little zip suits that are put on, and they're not. The second level would be the reptilians or the reptoids. Now they seem to be almost like the military contingents.
And they're physical as well?
Oh, they're very physical. And some people have actually seen what look like humans change into lizard eyes and blink and I know very reputable people that have said that, and I know they wouldn't say it without actually seeing it.
So do you think they have a chameleon type of ability to mimic their background or, something to that effect?
I think some of it can be literally that they're hiding in a human host, but I think also, or like a shell, because I see that in the scriptures, mentions it in Isaiah 14th chapter, beginning around 32 to 36, has, when you go back to the original Greek there, Hebrew, it's quite astounding what is actually being said. So I believe that there's multiple things happening. Some of them they're living in like a clone shell. Some of them are able to make you see them as a human, but sometimes they don't have full control over your mind, and so you can get a flash glimpse of what you're really looking at, and then it goes back again. Well, try telling that to the public, and you're just put on the kook list, and you could lose your job, you could lose all kinds of things, so you're not going to be talking about it too much to people. So this is one of the ways that they can get away with a lot of this kind of stuff too.
Now, do they have green skin or gray?
Variations. Like the grays, sometimes they look greenish. Why they look greenish? Because they need to eat. And, these are just, it sounds funny, but we've got pretty accurate descriptions on the various conditions. The reptilians are mostly greenish, but sometimes more brown. I don't know why, but that's just what's been seen. The next type is the creepy, really weird type, and that's the mantis type. The mantises seem to be a higher authority. They oversee the reptilians, they oversee the grays.
They're like scientists.
Yeah, and they're the meanest. They're the meanest and coldest treated towards humans. Reptilians don't like humans either. They look at them as disgust, as like a lower form. And
are the insectoids, are they physical as well?
Yeah, they're very physical as well.
So I want you to go on about them in a second, but this morning in my meditation, my morning meditations are very powerful. I do them every morning, and I usually do some very sci-fi type of stuff. And this morning I was blowing up the heads of insectoids, of the praying mantis beings that were in cyan suits, that they were sitting there doing something, and I exploded their head, and they had humans around them, and the humans were just looking around like, what just happened? Like, how did the head just explode? And there were also ant beings as well that I was doing this to. So, it's pretty crazy, the stuff I experience. And I have experienced the abduction phenomena, as I said in the Fallen Angel roundtable. I experienced that my entire life, and I distinctly remember the praying mantis and humans more than anything else. So, but go ahead, you were
well, the top dog are the Nordics. Blonde hair, blue-eyed, or red hair, green-eyed, buffed out He-Man looking males, and I don't know, She-Ra or somebody,
are they also the Anunnaki?
Well, the Anunnaki supposedly came from the heavens, and now they live underground. Yeah, guess it is. Anakim is one of the tribes of human tribes that was actually a hybrid tribe described in Genesis. So yeah, I would say that there's a direct connection to the legends of the Anunnaki being the Anakim, which are, again, fallen angels. Very physical, very real. So in the book of Jude, we're warned that there would be these entities that would leave their first estate, meaning their position in heaven, and they would leave their bodies that they had in heaven. They'd come back down to earth. They would be clouds without water. So you think about it, water is what is made of a cloud. So this has the appearance of something that has no substance to it. It's something different than what it looks like.
So they're talking about like chemtrails, clouds without water?
Well, clouds without water, meaning that their physical appearance looks like something that's not composed of what it's supposed to look like. It's something different.
So it's just a metaphorical sense.
Yeah, it's a metaphorical sense. It doesn't mean literally that they're going to come down as a cloud. Now, the clouds in the Bible has a symbolism to it, that it's a vehicle that God uses to ride it from one place to another, a dimension. It's like a heavenly taxi cab. It's what Ezekiel saw. It's what, before he saw all of the wheel within a wheel and all this stuff, a cloud came from a tornado or a whirlwind, but you're looking down into it. What does a tornado look like if you tipped it up and looked down into it? It looks like a wormhole.
Mm-hmm.
So from this wormhole comes this cloud, and the cloud hovers above Ezekiel and starts talking to him. And he tells him things of the future. And Ezekiel totally knew what he saw. He said in the 10th chapter of Ezekiel, he says, and these were the cherubim, and I knew that the living vehicle was a cherubim. So he knew it was a living vehicle, but it was also a cherubim. A cherubim is an order of an angel. It's an angel that is basically a heavenly taxi cab, transporting God from his place of perfection into a fallen world. Now, this is, Old Testament times before Jesus became the bridge, so that he's wrapping himself around for protection, not for his protection. God's God. He's not going to, come into this fallen world and fall apart, but he could destroy his very presence of pure holiness coming into a fallen world.
Whoa. What happened?
Before Christ could destroy everything. Present God that is making a manifested appearance. So the cloud of heaven served kind of a situation. Now, the thing is that man in his own vanity sees this, and now in the ancient age of religion, well, the clouds of heaven were UFOs, and so they were just mixing up and trying to describe what they could in terms that they could. No, Ezekiel proves he was familiar with it, and he knew it was an order of an angel. It even says that God rides upon the wings, upon the clouds on the wings of the wind. Wings of the wind in the book of Enoch, even though it's an extra biblical book, it gives us a description of the angels' pathways being the wings of the wind. So, I mean, there's some pretty solid evidence here that what we're seeing is a fully functional reality of the way things are done in heaven, but now they're being reconstructed on earth to take what was once biological and making it mechanical. Yeah. Why? Because angels have basically, they're fallen angels. They no longer have access to the third heaven. They're in the second and first heaven. And so now they're going to dupe mankind, saying, hey, you can be like God. Look at this. This is only technology. This isn't magic. This isn't the all-powerful God. We can explain all of this away. That was Satan's first fall. He thought he could explain everything that God did, and hey, I can do that myself. So he's going to con mankind in the same way of following an alternate provision for everything, including the ability to travel space, time, and dimension.
Yeah. So I pulled up my website here. Now it's interesting you talk about the clouds, because these are clouds. I've taken pictures. These are my pictures that I've seen in the clouds. I mean, you can see this is like a samurai helmet. You can see the darkness over here, and it's there's an eye, there's kind of a mustache,
Yep.
And
then
and then right here, this is the first one I ever saw, and what really woke me up. You can see the eyes. You can see this is the image of Jesus Christ that I saw, and you can see it better in this one. That one day, I was told in my meditations for months that May 17th. 2020 was going to be a big day. From like February, I started getting May 17th is going to be a big day. Well, it turns out that like 11 o'clock at night, I'm out on my back porch on May 17th. My cat had run away, and I'm outside listening for her, trying to see if she'll come back. and I just get the overwhelming urge to take a picture of the sky. And I take a picture of the sky, and this, so you can see this one is the first picture I saw, which was there's a cross, right here, there's a cross on the forehead, and then the two eyes, but the nose and the mouth is covered. And then like my mind was blown. I was like, I didn't see anything in the sky. I just took a picture, look at my phone, and I see that. And then I go to take another picture, and this is what I see. And I'm like, that's Jesus. That's the face of God. I had seen the face of God in psychedelic trips already. So when you're telling me the clouds are used as a vehicle for God to show himself through, I mean, like, yeah, that's what really, I've experienced this. And, I have tons of pictures of clouds. I mean, you can see the eyes on this one. You can see that this is like a guy right here, but it's also like a gray alien. It's very crazy stuff. If you want to check out my website, emmanuelkingman.com, I have all sorts of different photos on there of this type of stuff. And, so what you're telling me now that and I've seen cherubim in my clouds. I've seen them in meditation, and I've seen the wheels on wheels, the eyes within eyes, that the wheels on wheels, Ezekiel's wheel. I've seen that in my sky as well. So everything you're saying here, that this is biblical stuff, this is very intriguing to me, because I've experienced all of these different things. And again, I'm not a Bible scholar the way that, I've read it through one time and I reference it often. I'll go to it, but I don't know scripture, so it's very mind-blowing to me.
Well, again, the word, and I may be mispronouncing it, but it's Shamayam. I think I'm not doing Naham, but it's Shamayam. Is one word used for heaven, for all three heavens. So typically what's been thought and taught was that where it says even the heavens declare the glory of God, we think, well, the stars and the universe and all of the wonderful things, and it does. But guess what? So does the first heaven. My grandfather, at a low point in his life, he was saved. I think he got saved maybe even during World War II. I have his Bible that he used when he was fought in World War II in the Philippines. And he had all these scriptures outlined, and it brought me to tears, because before I led him to the Lord, he was already seeking the Lord. God was showing him all kinds of scriptures about himself and everything. He stooped down one time and picked up a penny on the beach, and it was a 1776 penny. And that just lifted him up.
Wow.
He thought, sign from God that, that's America's date of birth, and we were going to continue on. And it just gave him, he was 33 when he was fighting in the Philippines. He thought he was too old. He was going to, probably die there. But, and for 33, when the average age was 18 and 19, that would be seem like an old guy. But later on in his life, he was like in his late 80s, 90, maybe even 90 then. He was really down about some things. And he looked up in the skies and he was praying. And then all of a sudden he seen the clouds were Jesus with his hands open like that. He said he had such a peace, and God answered his prayer. It was just a top thing. He would tell everybody that story 10 times, a day, and forget that he told everybody, but it was
a beautiful story.
The thing is that God always does things on multiple levels. That's where any Hebrew scholar that has gone to Hebrew school, any rabbi can tell you, because they have to go to Hebrew school. They learn Pardus, P-A-R-D-U-S. This is a 4-level onion-skinned way that the Hebrews wrote the scriptures. So that's why you can get so much out of one scripture, because there's let's see, what's the first one? The Pesant, which is the most literal, obvious, literal interpretation. Then there's the Ramirez and the let's see, the Ramirez and the, okay, I'm going to forget them. Another one. Anyways, these two are similar, but the Darash, that's it. Now, these two, one has, they're both allegorical in a sense, but one has a conclusion to it. The other is, it's like a simile. It's this is like this. So it's something that's going to be prophetically replayed. The other one is giving us an example not to follow or what to follow. So the last one, the sod, is a message within a message. Sometimes it can be the names that are in a lineage. If you look up each Hebrew name, you'll find out it reads out a story. Chuck Missler did this with Adam to Noah, and it had the gospel in a nutshell,
Yeah,
proclaimed.
that was amazing. I've seen that.
I did it with Cain's residence, and that was even more amazing because it talks about Cain's sentence being made powerful by God, but be hidden in the earth, or made powerful. It's only 5 generations, I think 5 generations that it gives. And if my understanding is correct, which I think it is, Cain was sentenced to wander in the land of Nod, east of Eden, which is inside the hollow earth. So he was to be removed from the face of God, to be hid in the earth so he wouldn't be killed, and then made powerful by God in some miraculous way. Well, being 30 foot tall would be pretty doggone powerful, because when you come up, I don't care how bad you are. It's like a scene in Indiana Jones when the guy with the scimitar is doing all this fancy stuff. He just pulls out a 44 and blows them away. And if you're 30 foot tall, no matter how bad you think you are or how adept you are in anything, you just stomp your foot and it's the end of them. So I think a lot of that, by example, is our reality that actually people would laugh at and think you're, had one too many acid trips. And then when people find out that was a drug of my choice back in the days in the 60s, as far as I can remember anyway, I laugh along with it. It's like, God uses the foolish to confound the wise, and the things that are of no effect to make no effect the things that are the despised things. Well, that was me back in the 60s. And that's my qualifications for ministry. So
I'm so glad that I got you on, because like I said in the intro, you really played an integral role in my awakening. So 2 years ago, I'm starting to venture out of my comfort zone of sports and work and that type of thing. And I'm listening to the confessionals with Tony Merkel, and I think your episode, I think, is like 19 or something. And I had listened to it in order. And when I got to your episode, the things you were saying just resonated with me so much. While I was working, tears just started coming down my eyes. I was like, I remember these experiences. Like, it was like a breakthrough for me. And it was like, I'm not crazy. I did experience those things back then. I just had put it, you don't have a place to hold it in your mind when you have something so crazy. So you just shove it down deep inside, and then it's a forgotten memory. And then when I heard you speaking about these different things, I was like, it was just opened up in me, and it was all the memories came rushing back, and I was like, it was such a huge, huge part of my awakening. I want to thank you so much for speaking your truth, because had it not been for that, who knows what I would be doing now, where I would be in my thinking and those things. And at that time, I wasn't raised a Christian. I did, like, I've been to one church mass ever, but I've still have come to the Lord in the way that was best for me. And it was God got me there through all these different things. So like listening to podcasts for me is like listening to different preachers, even though, not everyone's a pastor or anything like that, but it's the news, the information that I needed at the time. And it turns out, now I'm here 2 years later interviewing you, interacting with you for the second time in a few weeks here. And, I'm just so blessed to be able to have this interaction with you. And I'm so thankful and grateful for all the things that you have done and the positions that God's put you in to be able to do these things. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your life that's been changed and impacted. The thing is that it's testimonies like yours that keeps me going on, gives me the strength to keep going on. Because for years, I was just a laughing stock, called, made fun of, ghosted even by other churches because they didn't know what to do with me. Once you go, well, we're glad you're doing this good stuff, but can you go far away from us and do it somewhere else? Because
you're going to give us a bad name.
Right. So this is what keeps me going on, knowing that I am making an effect in individuals' lives. And, I had a guy yesterday, and I get this so often. Let me compare it first like this. I remember when I was a new Christian, and I'm reading in the scriptures, it says that your young men shall have visions and your old men shall dream dreams. And I'm going, well, wait a minute, I'm a young man, but I'm dreaming dreams. I mean, I think I might have had a vision once, but God has always talked to me through my dreams. I don't get that. Well, you know, I thought I was in the end times. I always knew I was going to be around. I was going to have a role to play. I think instinctively, I just knew that. But I always thought myself as being one of the Jedi Knights. And when I found out, there's so much time's going by. Now I'm 70 years old. Guess what? I'm Yoda. I'm not Jedi Knight. I'm Yoda.
And you've been dreaming dreams for a long time.
A long time, yeah. So you know, but I'm a pastor, a prophet, and with a teacher's and a pastor's heart. But I'm kind of the three main big things I would classify myself as that: comfortably and easily. You know, I have those three abilities and the ability to begin a new work that has never been done before. So with these gifts, I look back and I go, I couldn't have it any better. To be able to teach people and bring them into the awareness and then see them grow and then see them take it to the next level. Man, I don't get jealous about that. I'm excited. It shows me that I've done my job. Here are people that are taking what I laid a foundation with, and they're replicating what I'm doing or even surpassing it. That is awesome. That means I'm doing my job. I'm being honest to the calling that God has given me. So yeah, I'm Yoda, and I kind of like it. It's cool. You know, I thought I would be part of the Army, but instead I get to help the whole Army get put together. And, you know, I gave my first sermon on the whole Genesis 6 paradigm in 1978. I think there was, and I'm not bragging, I'm just saying the reality of how much God has used me to pioneer and plant seeds. I think maybe 8 people in the whole world even knew anything of a connection between Genesis 6 and the Bible. And so, you know, and I gave this sermon to my Christian motorcycle club that I had, and they were used to me being outside of the box. And well, they were all outside of the box, because whoever heard of a Christian biker in 1978, that wasn't too many around then. So, going against the flow, you know, to me, the Bible says that wide is the way and many there be that follow to their destruction, and narrow is the path and few there be that find their way therein. So when the majority of people are over here doing, you know, following the crowd, I'm always over here watching the crowd to see what in the heck's going to happen with them. But I want to stay outside the box and just watch first. And then when I see that they're going off a cliff, okay, you know, I'm glad that I'm strange. You know, I got an intersection not too far from me. It's and the intersection is comical because it's normal and common. So there's a crossroads. So there's normal and common. So I took a selfie of me. You know, I had a friend, because I didn't know how to take a selfie. I had a friend go ahead and take a picture of me standing underneath normal and common. And I told everybody, this is the closest I'm ever going to be to normal. And many people like you and I, the people that were not afraid to go outside of the box, the people that were not afraid that they weren't going to leave the foundation in Jesus Christ, but they're going to see the whole truth of Christ, even considering what the enemy has to say. Because a truly wise man is going to, you know, realize that there's elements of truth in everything. And so if you can weed that truth out by having a firm, solid relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ and knowing his plan, knowing his mind, you're enabled to do that. My Bible says that Jesus stood at the foot of Mount Hermon. He said, and there was a cave there that made a strange sound in certain weather conditions, and it would make this cave whistle and hum. And when it did, people said that, you know, there was a strange whirling smoke or something that were found in it. And they called it the gates of hell. And he said, upon this, he said, you are the rock, Petra, a little rock. Now, the Catholic Church always considered that was the scripture to prove papal authority, that, you know, somebody on earth was going to represent God in heaven. So whatever he said is absolute. No, that's baloney. The word used several other times. He says, you are the rock, and upon this rock I will build my church, and not even the gates of hell shall prevail against it. So this hole was called the gates of hell. He was up on top of Mount Hermon, where the fallen angels first descended upon earth the first time to cause the Genesis 6 incursion. So it was also the place where the divided kingdom, where the ones that defected from the faith would actually go up on top of this same mountain and do sacrifices to these false gods. They would make their children pass through the fire. Pass through the fire, we think in walking on stony rocks or whatever. In the Hebrew, passing through the fire meant that they were sacrificing them and consuming their flesh and their blood. How does that sound? Familiar? The Pizzagate, all of these crazy things about the elite eating the blood and adrenochrome, blood in the bodies of babies.
Now, do we know where the Mount Hermon is physically located on the earth?
Oh yeah, it's in Lebanon. It's 33.3 degree latitude line. The prior. This is
this in the Caucasus Mountains?
No, what is the mountains there? No, not the Caucasus. Caucasus is way further east, near Russia, in the border. This, gosh, I can't think of the mountain range that it is in now, but it's in Lebanon.
Okay.
What would be modern day Lebanon now? It's on the 33.3 degree parallel line, and I think that's really interesting because that's amazing. Knowledge that a person is able to contain outside of himself. So anything above that is going to be from supernatural entities, beings, or God.
And there was 33% of the stars were whipped down by Satan's tail onto the earth. And, you know, you got 33 degrees of Freemasonry. 33 is a very significant number.
It's repetitive in all kinds of things. Now,
half of infinity. Or it's broken infinity.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is interesting, if you take that line and go east about almost 400 miles, you end up in downtown Baghdad, where they assumed the Tower of Babel once existed. Now, if you take it back on the other side of the world, you end up in Roswell, New Mexico.
Wow.
Why significant will that be? Well, their first appearance, they came as gods and goddesses. In their second coming, they come as aliens, and they set a foundation.
Is this biblical?
Yeah, it's biblical. Zechariah 4th chapter. It's right out of Zechariah 4th chapter. I've got it posted on my website to kind of prove all the scriptures and everything. But yeah, it's very biblical. Even given the size and dimensions of a cigar-shaped, what we know as a cigar-shaped ship, I don't think that's by coincidence either. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, there's totally biblical. The things that I have, this is what a lot of people have realized. I don't declare anything as biblical unless I can rightly divide and prove it by the Bible proving it by itself. So I'm not going to give you just one scripture and say this is my take on it. My take doesn't matter on anything. Let's see what the Bible says by rightly dividing the word, by using partus, by using hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is what's taught in every Bible college. It's the basic tenets of how we are to be able to approach the Word of God, rightly dividing it. Some of this, we got to play catch up because we're dealing with a language that's no longer spoken. We're dealing with a culture that no longer exists. We're dealing with could I say, like, cultural idioms, cultural similes, different things like that that we can't relate to because
slang words.
Yeah, and things that of that nature that are used there that lost their meaning in present times. Abraham's bosom is one. You know, the story of Lazarus and the rich man. One of the things on hermeneutics is that whenever there's a name or geographical location mentioned, it's not an allegory, it's not a parable, it is a recorded historical situation. So when Lazarus and the rich man died, Lazarus went to Abraham's bosom, the rich man went to Sheol. There was a divide between them, and this great divide separated them. They could see each other and communicate, but they couldn't cross over one to the other or the other to the one. So this was clearly what was going on. Abraham's bosom. Well, most of your commentaries, it's just the fondness that God had for Abraham, for being a man of faith. No, if you go back, you realize that when everybody wore togas and tied a sash around the waist, this part here, when you went into market, was like a shopping bag. It had an inner pocket, and so you stuff things in it. A shepherd going out and taking care of his sheep, when young baby sheep stray away, they're the vulnerable ones that the wolves are going to eat. So to protect them, sometimes they would actually break a leg and put them in the bosom and carry them so they wouldn't stray away and they'd stay alive. Yeah, they'd rather harsh having a broken leg, but they'll cure and you're still alive. They're not digested by some predator. So this was well known in the days when people wore togas. We don't know that now. That's why we get all these crazy ideas of what they think.
Amazing.
So he was trying to tell us then. The one guy went to Abraham's bosom, a pocket, a holding chamber, so that when Peter says that he that ascended first, and he's talking about Jesus, first descended into the earth. And when Jesus died, he told the thief on the cross, "This day you shall be with me in paradise." Well, that day, where did they go? They went to Abraham's bosom. That was paradise. Oh my God, if that's paradise inside the earth, then what are all the other scriptures talking about paradise? On heaven there is a paradise in heaven, but in heaven as it is on earth, there's also a paradise on heaven. Where is it? It's inside the earth, in a hollow earth. What separates them between up above and below is this great gulf fixed, right? You know where that great gulf fixed is positioned on this planet?
No.
The 33.3 degree parallel. And guess what is on the 33.3 degree parallel?
What is that?
The devil's triangle.
Devil's triangle?
In the book of Job, in some of the rhetorical comments that are being made, cosmology is amazingly described when you go back to the original language. What you have to do, though, you have to go to the 41st chapter, and it talks about Leviathan. Now, Leviathan, it sums up who Leviathan is. It says in the last verse in chapter 41, and he is the father of the children of pride. Now, who is the father of the children of pride?
Satan.
What do you mean on that one? Yes, you got it. Bingo. Okay, you get the Cupid out. Yes, Satan.
The ego
of the chain of the children of pride. That is talking about Satan. Now that word is used as a collective noun. It means Satan sometimes can be addressing the person, or it can be expressing the whole embodiment of rebels called Satan. This is calling the whole body of rebels. Now, if realizing that is perception, you go all the way back to Job 24 up to Job 42, and it is describing the entire embodiment of rebels, who they are, where they are, what they're going to do, and what they've already done. And my gosh, it gives you complete scenario of base 211, the Nazis accidentally lighting on the floor, a cloud is not broke or rent between them. I mean, it describes the reason why there's a warming up of the Antarctic, and all of a sudden pyramids are appearing. A city is appearing that seems to almost resemble the legends of Atlantis. Everything we're expecting to happen over in the Middle East on the surface is happening from a view of inside the earth. It's happening in the Antarctic, not in the Middle East. So many end time prophecies that are being fulfilled right now are being fulfilled in the Antarctic. It has nothing to do with the Garden of Eden over there. There's never been 4 rivers that they could find. The one river they could not find, they've used infrared readings from satellites and everything that can show a dead river it's been buried over, and they can't find anything of the 4th river. But you can find four ocean currents that flow out of the North Pole and back into the South Pole.
And they actually just made a fifth ocean. It's called the I forget what it is. I'm getting bad feedback. Are you hearing that?
No, huh?
Oh, okay. It's stopped now. I don't. It was just repeating in my ears for some reason. But yeah, they actually call it a fifth ocean. I forget what it's called, but yeah, it's very interesting. So I have a few more little things I want to ask you about here before we get done. So when we have today's day and age, the craziness that's happening, the fake sets that the president and the vice president are operating from, when we have the entire North America surrounded by cargo ships, and China has the capability into 2019, it came out that they have missiles, long-range missiles that are disguised as cargo, as containers, and then can fire from cargo ships. When we have all these shortages occurring, we're in very interesting times. And plus, a few days ago, it came out, China had the missile go around the world and then strike. It's very reminiscent of shot heard around the world, but it happened in August, but it's only been reported on a few days ago. This is very interesting. It seems that we are in end times type of deal. Now, I'm not trying to scare anyone into thinking we're going into war and we're being invaded by the Chinese or anything. I don't know what's happening, but I want to ask you, do you think that there's some kind of event coming? We were talking earlier and I said we're in a crescendo, that we're building up to something. Do you feel that as well? Do you think that we're coming to a head with something soon?
Oh, I think we're at the last of the last days. Matter of fact, I'm pretty confident that we are, but it's how we interpret what we hear. Good news about China, they have nothing to do with crossing over the Euphrates and making this one great, big, huge, end time battle or war. They might even try to do something like that, but it's got nothing to do with the prophecies in the scriptures. Good news for the Chinese. What you don't know, what you won't hear on network news, is one of the greatest Christian revivals that are going on right now is in China. China will soon be the largest Christian nation on this planet.
Wow.
The Chinese communists know that, because you know what? They hate the communists. They despise communism, and they don't want it. And the communists in China know their days are numbered. If anything ever drastically changed, even just by longevity of life, when they die out, the new generation is so opposed to communism, they're going to be snuffed out. So they're saber rattling right now. They're going down the drain and they know it. So they have to be bold and try to come out with all kinds of superior weaponry or saber rattling to make the world think, oh my gosh, they're in control. Now, they almost came into a global positional control thanks to Obama. My God, even, borrowing billions of dollars from them, and then assigning now I'm not remembering the name of it. What they did, basically what he did was, if they ever called all the money in and we couldn't pay it, which we can't pay it anyway, they have annexed the property rights of California to the Chinese.
Wow.
So if we can't pay it, they have full and contractual agreement. They have full rights to claim to claim California as theirs. Now, there was a time when Trump was president that they started amassing large amounts of troops dressed as civilians. And the towns weren't in Canada or in Mexico were not alarmed, because there was a large Chinese presence there anyway, in manufacturing businesses and different even help kind of situations. So that local towns there, small towns, were used to seeing a large amount of Chinese Asians there anyway. So when they started amassing more, because it looked like they were getting ready to, claim California, and Trump made a statement about they better back off because we have weapons. You wouldn't believe what we have. He says it's a it's a great thing. You know how he talks, and
Right.
and what he was sending a message out to them. We have when Star Wars was being initiated under Reagan, there's surveillance. They're more than that. They had weapons on them. Those are military objects. We have a capability. It's like an intense heat comes out at the temperature of the sun, but it's just for a second, just a flash, and then it instantly cools off. They have the ability to locate where the masses are, and they can individually pick out either by individual or by a mass and wipe them out in a flash and not leave
You're
any
talking about
fires
directed
or-
energy weapons.
Yes, directed energy weapons.
Okay,
Particle
so you don't think that the Chinese could possibly be the Leviathan, the 7-headed, 10-horned beast? Because we know that how they're paying off politicians all over. You don't think the communists could be that?
No, I don't think so. The invasion isn't going to be by them. They're going to be actually very ineffectual very soon. But, you go by the standard traditional ways. I mean, prophecy is progressive with our understanding and knowledge. That's what Daniel was told. He said, shut up and seal up the things you've seen until the time when when knowledge increase and people should go to and fro. If you saw the Fall Brothers movie on the Hollow Earth, they describe a complete description of what the Bible says about moving to and fro, and it has a lot more to do than just hopping on a plane and going from one place to another. Satan was able to go to and fro the earth, walking up and down, in and out, and it alludes to much more than that. But when knowledge will increase, in other words, when our technology comes to a point where we understand quantum physics, where we understand time, space, and dimension, cloning and replicants and nanobot technology, all this stuff, we're here right now. This is it. And so these things are going to be abused and misused to take mankind away from a belief in God. This is why the Lord told me to call my ministry Echoes of Enoch ministry. And he told me that my ministry would echo that of Enoch's. Well, Enoch was taken and shown all the mechanics and ways things were done in heaven, because it was misrepresented by these so-called gods and goddesses. So, that's my job, and God's just simply going to equip me with what I need to know and share it with whoever. And I'm not afraid or shy to share with anybody. And, I find it funny that getting back to the original 9 from the Egyptian thing, every program, sci-fi program, mirrors this and glorifies these 9, or whether it be the aliens or ancient gods or whatever the heck they call them. They all glorify these deities as something that's a good thing, except for one program. One program, a series, actually seeks out. What I love about it is, and I got it tattooed on my forearm there, it's 667, one step ahead so none are left behind. There's 666. God has kept me one step ahead so that no one's going to be left behind. That seems to be the theme of this program too. They go out in a unit, they're traveling all over different worlds and everything, and they're seeking out these ancient gods and goddesses. 10 years they were on the television, and 10 years, in that 10-year time, they sought out all 9 and killed them. These were not good. They were called the Ga'uld from Stargate SG-1. I love that series. I really think God has something to do with it somewhere down the line in this production, because it glorifies the fact that they are not gods. They are evil. They only intent on capturing and making us slaves. And their job was to stay together as a team, work together with everyone and anyone that would work together, make contact with other entities that they could help set free. Now, of course, this doesn't fit into a biblical total, program, but it's the only movie that stresses the importance of leaving the 99 to get the one back.
Okay.
I'm ex-Army, so I really understand that. I get it. And I think that this program as best as they can in this fallen, crazy world and controlled by, you know, Hollywood and the Prince of Darkness. They're doing the best they can to put out two things. One, that you seek out the one, you never leave anybody behind. And the other one, that these are total evil entities. You cannot make a deal with them. You cannot compromise. They're only here to destroy, kill, and rob everything that you hold dear. So I think God has some way of doing it. The physics, the amount of science that is real, that is encrypted in here is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, they spell all kinds of hints on everything from quantum physics to, you know, space, time, and dimensional travel. It's all in there, and it's all real stuff.
Well, so do you think there's going to be an alien invasion soon? Like, is that the event that's going to render the Chinese ineffective?
That's what everybody, they think it's going to be like Independence Day, or what's the other one? The California one. I can't remember the name of that one. That one really got to me. I like that one. Anyways, no, it won't be anything like that. It's going to be subtle. You know, believe it or not, the unbelievers, the elite, and I got scripture to back that up. It's in the book of Job. It says, will you believe in him because he promises to take you up and away? This is talking about an alien rapture. Well, what we would call it an alien rapture, but it would be called a parallel to the Christian rapture.
So it'd be in secret.
It would be, well, it would be something that would be visible. But we got to keep in mind, these are people that can manipulate space, time, and dimension. And it might come in a conjunction with the real rapture as almost a simultaneous response. There's been many people. Now, I have been beaten up so bad by everybody on this alien rapture thing. I had it in my book, thank God, written 26 years ago. And I'm talking about this in great detail. And that it's the same but opposite. So you got to think of the same but opposite. So in the real rapture, we go to be with the marriage supper of the Lamb. We are being the bride of Christ, and we come back to Jesus. Being outside of time, it doesn't matter when you died or, you know, or anything, whether you're an Old Testament saint or whether you're new or whatever. Our perception of time here is different from there. When we go there, we're absent of body to be present in the Lord. Where are we going to go first? We're going to go at the marriage supper of the Lamb. All of us are going to be there at the same time. I don't care if you died 1,000 years ago, 100 years from now, whatever. It's all going to be a simultaneous thing when we're up there. So they get the opposite. The elite know that there's going to be a promised rapture of their own. And on varying degrees, some know that they're directly dealing with Satan. Some think that it's aliens. Some just have a hope. You know, a lot of the New Agers just have this.
They can go to another planet.
They're going to, well, the most popular idea is that they're going to be taken away from the tribulation and then brought back later because they're deemed so important. They have to be spared from, you know, all of the tribulation activities, and they'll be brought back later. Satan's plan is that he is going to turn evil good and good evil. And what he does is literally turn everything opposite. So he's going to look to make himself totally vulnerable. He is going to take all of the ruling elite that know they're in league with him. They're just cannon fodder. He doesn't care about them. They're just, you know, when they're done used up, he's got a bigger plan. His plan is to imitate in the same but opposite everything that God does. So we go to a marriage supper of the Lamb. They go to the feast of the beast. The only problem is they're on the menu. It's accountability. It's almost poetic justice. They're sitting there, the elite especially, eating and drinking the blood and flesh of innocents. Whether it be babies or other humans sacrificed. And so now they are going to reap what they sowed.
So let me ask you, so are you familiar with the ascension, you know, that the New Agers have deemed ascension, the 5D New Earth type of deal? Are you familiar with this?
Well, I'm familiar with the fact that they have long accepted and believed in an alien UFO type rapture that would take them away.
Right. So this is what I was getting to. So they believe, so people actually believe that beings are going to come to us and give us the option of you get to go to heaven if you choose to come with us. Now, my point of view, just on its face, is, well, if it's God, God's just going to do it. There's not going to be an in between. It's just going to happen.
Right. It's gonna
So,
happen.
so now people that aren't saved are, so you're talking about the elite are going to, they're already had committed to it in some effect now, and then there's people who have been saved who are going to be raptured in your scenario, and now there's going to be people in between. Are they going to have the option to go somewhere, or like that they think that they're going to go somewhere? Are beings going to actually approach them?
I think it's going to be a situation like Paul had on the road to Damascus. Some saw just lightning and thunders. Some heard a voice, just exactly what Paul heard, and others heard some inaudible, couldn't really tell much of anything. So there was a different crowds that were getting different perceptions. So I think it was their level of how perceptive they were themselves of anything supernatural. So that this will be the same kind of thing. Some people will actually see UFOs lifting people up. Other people will just see like a bright flashing light or hear a trumpet, and that's about all.
And do you think this is going to happen soon?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it will. Yes. But here's the thing that when they're taken, they're never brought back. They're going to reap what they sowed. They're going to go to the beast. Well, they're going to be eaten.
Or eaten.
No,
Okay.
that's not coming back. They're going to be eaten. What they have done to others now, and let's say that there's maybe a variation. I don't know yet. Maybe some are going to be slaves, but nobody's going to live in fun and joy. It's not fun and joy to hang out with a devil. Will some of them be rewarded? No. They're just going to be eliminated or made slaves. They're going to be just like in the Gaul. They're not going to do anything but make you a slave and an underling, and maybe you'll do their dirty work or whatever. Who knows? It's going to be hell, though. It's not going to be good. It's hell is hell, and that's all it is. But a lot of things are going to happen, and we're not going to even see or understand it. Some people, right now, to be a Trump supporter, and as the days even progress, it's going to be harder and harder. I am a Trump supporter. I'm going to be working for him someday. That's what I tell people, and I know I will. So, to me, that's going to be an honor. He's part of God's plan. When he first got voted, I thought, oh boy, not a capitalist, but a fascist, an industrial fascist businessman is going to, sell probably our whole country away to the highest bidder. Oh, that's going to be great. I didn't like the guy at first. I didn't trust him. Then when I heard the prophetic voices, and God actually set me down, and through the voices, David Wilkerson, Kim Clement, and Mark Taylor. Boy, the Lord spoke to me and said, listen up. And I remember one thing that Kim Clement said, he would come in whispering the name of Jesus, but God would save him and fill him with the Holy Spirit, and he'll be shouting on the rooftops the glory of God.
Well, see, so for me, I think that and I don't, obviously this is all just opinion, and I don't want to get in any discussion about politics, but I don't believe any politician is any good, and I was deceived by the Q movement. And I believe that Trump is part of that deception, because he was leading us to believe that this was real, whether he wants to ever admit it or not. He was doing things in order to do these quote unquote proofs that actually pulled people in like myself, that they were like, oh, he is in on it, he's doing it. And I really think that he's part of the great deception. And I think, see, the Kim Clement, I like the Kim Clement prophecies that you talked about. I'm not familiar with Mark Taylor. I know who he is, but I haven't followed him. But the one thing with the Kim Clement prophecy is that he says that everyone is going to be astonished at the young age that he's at. And Trump is 77 years old. So that's where...
young age,
yeah, he says that they're going to say that he's too young.
Send me the clip to that, because I've never heard any such a thing.
Okay.
But I can tell you that it's going to be harder for me and many others who are Trump supporters, and I am, only because he does fit God's plan, and I'm fully convinced of it, but not blindly either. I listen to all the prophets.
Right.
If you got Amazon, you need to watch the movie The Trump Prophecies by Mark Taylor. That's going to fill in some gaps. Maybe. I hope. I don't know. But I can tell you,
I think it's one of us regular people who aren't known is going to be who it is. I think it's I don't trust any politician basically, and after being deceived, it's hard.
I don't like politics, but I have to know politics, because what they say is going to govern how I can move and what I can move. You study your enemy. I don't like government in general. I don't like a lot of other things that I need to know about. I don't like drama. I don't like drama queens or kings either. But you know what? As a pastor, you have to deal with drama. That's your life.
Right.
You have to filter through it. There's a lot of things I don't agree with, but I have to learn it so that I can see it from both sides. So I can not only be the ambassador of Christ, I can study my enemy and I can anticipate what he's going to do and next. That's how the 667 comes. It doesn't just come as a freebie from God. I have to study to show myself an approved workman. It's not easy. It's a discipline. So
what do you think about him pushing the vaccine? Do you think?
No, but I think the wonders of CNN's and the rest of the network news in their arrogance to splice in and edit out certain things. He was trying to provide the only safe alternative. He even made a comment. He says, none of my followers are going to take any kind of vaccine anyway. But if you
in recent times, in the last few months.
In the last few months, I'm telling you this, right in the last few months. He said, I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago, he had said in the full unedited version, he said that none of my followers are going to take a vaccine anyway. But if you had to take one, you take the one from the survivors of COVID-19. Their blood has antibodies and it can cure it in a healthy way without any nanobot or, he just said without any man-made elements. So that was chopped up and made everybody to believe that he was endorsing Pfizer or Moderna. He wasn't endorsing any of that crap. He knows that it's filled right from the pages of hell. Pfizer and Moderna both are part of the IG Farben Corporation.
Right.
IG Farben Corporation. Do you know who bought IG Farben at the end of the war?
George Soros, the Nazis. Yeah.
Right. And who were roommates, who works for him, who both were roommates together in college?
I'm not sure.
Fauci and Gates.
They were roommates?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
And guess who they work for? They work for George Soros. You can't trust none of these people. Things that look real are not real. Now, George Soros was probably the biggest embezzler the world ever knew. He was a genius at 17 years old. He was made an accountant for the Third Reich. He was only 17 years old. And as the Jews were being gassed, he was in charge of all of their belongings.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was to catalog everything. And then what they would do is do the research on the families, if they owned any property, businesses, anything. All of that was taken and given to the Reich as retribution or whatever. And so George ended up, his kind of thing was, okay, 1 for the Führer, 2 for me, 5 for the Führer, 10 for me. He was embezzling, man. He was taking all that money. He bought IG Farben at the end of the war, and then he broke it up into sub businesses so that it wouldn't be identified as being IG Farben. Well, what's important about IG Farben? They were the ones that made Zyklon B that gassed all the Jews. They are the ones that are in control of all of the modern vaccines. There's a 1978 movie. It hasn't been debunked by anyone because it can't be. And it was with Bill Gates addressing CIA operatives in the field. And he's telling them sometime in the future, we are going to use some kind of a coronavirus to produce a fake pandemic. And from that, we're going to bring down Judeo-Christianity in America and bring down the global economy so that we can have a manageable, sustainable society,
Wow.
which is quoting Agenda 21. So in World War II, this is what I feel is going to happen very soon. In World War II, when the Nazis took over France, they set up the Vichy government, which was a puppet government obeying and complying completely to Adolf Hitler. So the concern of the Allies was that if we defeat the Nazis and they have a general election, there'll be many Nazi sympathizers that could permeate through, rig the election, and they're still in control behind the scenes. So, General de Gaulle, will you accept being nominated as president of the Free French so that at the end of the war, you will be an exiled government that comes right in complete? He says, okay, I'll do that. So they inaugurated him as the president of France in exile, so that at the end of the war, instead of having any elections, any kind of trickery going on, he was instantly put into charge because he was the government in exile. Trump was inaugurated August 15th as president. Now, when that happened, several things happened.
August 15th, this past August 15th?
This past August 15th, he was inaugurated as the president in exile. He won the election in 2021.
Right.
I don't know
2020. Yeah.
2020.
Yeah, it was obviously stolen. So where was this inauguration? I haven't heard anything about this type of thing.
You're not going to hear it because nobody's supposed to know about it.
Right. But I mean, so why don't you elaborate on it a little bit?
All the prophetic things are saying that this is what was going to happen. That's why you need to watch Mark Taylor's movie called The Trump Prophecies. He fills in some of the gaps. I know that the way he got called into it, it was exactly the way I got called into at a time when I was in the Christian motorcycle ministry in Detroit. There was a group organization that was coming against us and threatened our lives. I didn't know. I mean, I'm 26 years old. What I say or what I don't say is going to mean the lives of all of these people that were under my oversight, which was at that time about 250 people out of 5 chapters. And yeah, I was scared. I wanted to know clear directions from the Lord. I went on a literal 40-day fast, praying and seeking out the Lord. I worked full time as an iron worker at the same time. God gave me the strength and the preparation to be able to do something like that. I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it now, but I did back then. And I'm praying my brains out for this. And I get visions and sights of everything that's in my book, for 40 years later. It's like, Lord, why are you doing this to me? I need to know what I got to do now. Not, you know what he answered me? He says, what you're going through now is just basic training in preparation for what's really going to happen there. But think about it, Jim. I've already seen your victory here. Don't worry about it. This is on-the-job training. No one is going to get hurt. You are going to learn how to be overcomers. You're going to learn how to come against the powers of darkness and expect miracles. And we did. And it's like, oh my gosh, so you're speaking things that you already know are going to happen in the future. That means we're going to be okay. This is only training to be prepared for here. That's why you showed me there, because we're going to get through it. So it's the same kind of thing. But a lot of this, we have to not think linear. We got to think outside of time.
Okay.
So
I'll check out that movie, that Trump Prophecy. I just wrote it down to make sure. The thing is
that we see one perspective, and it's going to be very hard for me and many others, because, I thought for sure that maybe by October, September, when CERN fired up, maybe this was going to be it. And maybe, we're going to, the tipping point, or the thing that is the decisive moment. I'm waiting for this new age rapture, alien rapture thing. But the Lord is very clear that we will not know the day or the hour. Right. So nobody's going to know that. As soon as somebody tells you that, just put, well, here we go again, the Harold Camping spoof. But we won't know. And so there's enough in Scripture that we won't know. We'll just have to have hope and stand on that. So a lot of things are going to appear like they're not happening. And people, well, there you go. Look we're going all the way here to January. What happened? Nothing happened. Yes, it did. It's on a script. And I'm thinking that it's not by coincidence that on the 6th of January, they think they're going to put Trump in jail.
With this upcoming January?
He's delaying it because there has to be enough time where, according to Mark Taylor, the whole world is going to be horrified at the craziness that these people are doing. Look at how Biden is acting right now. He's just nothing but a socket puppet, for others. But I call her Camilla the Hun because it's getting more and more obvious that she would like to be the next warlord of America. There'll be no presidents. Her beliefs and her ideas are just so far crazy, not even left. Right. Democrats are expecting now, saying, I didn't sign up for this. There was a day and a time, I'm old enough to remember that we all had the same hope and aspirations for America because we all were Americans that loved our country. And at the end of the day, left or right, whoever won, we agree to work together now and do the best we can. We may not be happy about it, but we still want the same conclusive results. It's just getting there that varies. Now, no, they want a new America. They want something that's never existed before, a socialist, a communist America. I'm not buying it. I took an oath when I was in the Army to defend enemies from within or without. And that's the other part of this whole package deal. If he's made invisibly the exiled government, not only did that happen, but now Biden had to be inaugurated as the victor and the president, even though he's not, so that he is now the illegal government in occupation of
foreign country.
Right. And so what happens with that is immediately after that happened, now he's under the Uniform Code of Military Justice as a foreigner, usurper of the government.
Right.
So he's under Uniform Code of Military Justice, which means that nobody in the federal government or anything can touch him except the military. And they give you only, if you're found guilty of charges, they give you two choices. Do you want to die by hanging or die by a firing squad? Because you're going to die. Okay. And so if he's proven to be treasonous, which I think is more than obvious that he's going to be, I'm not saying just she, we're talking the Clintons and their body count, that they have, and all the others that have traded out America, and not only to America, but the entire world in some of their global manipulations. The world's going to see it, and they're going to agree.
It's a very interesting time, and I foresee a very interesting possibilities of so many different things, but I got to get going here in a moment. Do you want to tell our audience where they can find you?
Unfortunately, you can't find me on YouTube. I was one of the first to be removed back in 2017. And all my stuff on Hitler, so I was picking on Hitler. That's crazy. So the best way to get hold of me is on my Facebook page under my name, Jim Wilhelmson. I do have a website. It's in the process of being restructured and rebuilt. It's echoesofenoch.com. .org is owned by the Chinese now. I don't know how the heck that happened, but don't go there because you're not going to get anything that's from me. So it's echoesofenoch.com, echoesofenoch.com. There you can get my many articles that I've had posted. It's so old, that's why I have to revamp it. So it's still in the process. Some are still dead links. I've got a friend of mine who's going to be revamping it. I just don't have the time to do it myself. That's the best way to get hold of me, though, is on Facebook.
All right, and I'll provide the links in the description for anyone who's interested in getting in touch with Jim and checking out all his stuff. I want to thank you so much for coming on, Jim. It was an honor to have you on, and you really blew my mind with a lot, and I have some homework to do. I think I got about 4 different movies or suggestions that you told me to check out that I'm going to definitely be checking out. So I want to thank you for coming on.
After we go off the air, please stay on so we can get you set up to program. Regardless of what you think of Trump or whatever, it doesn't matter to me.
And I'm interested in possibilities. I'm all about that. So we're going to say goodbye to our audience. Goodbye, everybody. We will talk to you later.